Hello everyone. I hope everyone are fine. So I am Sushma and I'll be taking the financial management topic for you today. And this is the continuation part of the chapter 1. If you have not watched the chapter 1 of the part 1, then please do watch. I'll put it in my I button so you can just click on that. And I saw that lot of you did not answer my MCQ question. I don't know why, but guys, if you answer the question, then only I will come to know, okay, people are watching to my channel, people are getting what I am teaching. If you did not reply anything, then how can I come to know whether you are understanding or not? So I see only one or two people are responding to my in the comment section. So I request you all, please, irrespective of your answers, guys, whether it is right or wrong, anything, it doesn't really matter. But something is going into your head that I should be able to know, na? At least for that sake, please answer. Okay? So today we'll be talking about the most interesting topic, that is decision criteria. So this is the very important topic, and at the same time, this is the very interesting topic. Okay. Okay. Let us first see the MCQs that were discussed in the part 1. So the first question was, which of the following is true regarding financial decision of a firm? The answer is D. All the three decisions are interrelated. I am not going to discuss all these things because I have already done it in my part 1. Financial management is concerned with. We have seen that financial management is concerned with investment decisions, with financial decisions, with dividend decisions. So all the three are correct. Next, dash is concerned with the determination of how much funds procured by the various options available. Okay, let us break this sentence. First of all, let us assume there are three opportunities. 1, 2, 3. The number one opportunity here, you have to let us assume in this the equity shareholders is coming into picture, where there is like 100 shares of rupees 1000. Okay, let us assume it is 1000 rupees in one, and in situation 2 it is 2000 rupees. Okay, 2000 rupees, and in situation 3 let us assume again it is 3000 rupees. Okay, now where there is a number that is involved, then directly you have to think it is either financial decision or investment decision. It is not dividend decision. Why it is not dividend decision? Because only when there is a profit, then only the dividend decision will come into the picture. But there is no profit. It is like either shall I go for equity share or for debenture or for preference. Let us assume this is debenture, this is preference. Okay. Now, then it is a question of from where shall I get my money? It is either from equity or debenture or preferences. From where shall I get my money? If that is the question, then the answer will be financial decision. Now, where shall I put the money? Where shall I put the money? If that is the question, what will be the answer? Of course, then it is investment decision. Okay. Next, fourth question. That is to decide whether the firm should distribute all the profits. Now, what is coming into the picture? Profit. Okay. If there is a profit, then it will not be investment or financial. What is remaining? Dividend decision. Okay, let us read the question again. Or retain them. Shall I distribute the profit or shall I retain the profit in my company only? Then what type of decision is that? Of course, it is dividend decision. Okay. The finance manager has to decide the following decision. I told you in the beginning of the part 1 that there is a CFO, the Chief Finance Officer, who has to decide from where shall I get my money, from where to get the funds, where to invest that funds, and after investing I will get certain profits, and shall I keep that profit in my company only or shall I distribute that profit to my shareholders? then all the three decisions has to be taken: dividend decision, financial decision, financial decision, investment decision, and dividend decision. Then the answer will be all the above. So these are the 5 questions that we discussed in the part one. In the next part two, that is this video, I'll be asking certain questions and I'm not going to answer this question. You have to answer me in the comment section below. Only if you answer, I'm going to post the next chapter, or else I'm not going to do that, guys. Let it be a type of challenge for you. Okay, guys, now let's start with our theory part. So we are going to discuss about decision criteria now. Now, what is decision criteria? Who will do decision? Of course, a finance manager will do the decision. Now, in this book particularly, not only in this book, normally in our real life, we follow this technique. What is this technique? There are two principles that any finance manager or any person who has a knowledge of finance or who doesn't have a knowledge of finance will follow these two principles. So now what is this? From that time you are telling that these two principles. What is this? Number one, it is bigger and better. Now what is bigger and what is better? Okay, I will give you two options now. Number one option, invest in share market. Invest in share market. You will get 20% return on your investment. Whatever may be your investment, if it is 1000 also fine, if it is 500 also fine, you will get 20% return. This is the first option. The second option is invest in the government bond. Government bond. You will get a return of 10%. How much? 10%. Now, which one will you choose? The amount is same for both. Here also 1000, here also 1000. The amount is same, but the return is high. Now, which one will you invest? Of course, Sushma, I will go for the option one. Why? Because it is giving me more return. And at the same time, it is more risky. Right? It is more risky.
Okay. Sorry guys, there were some technical issues. Okay, let us come back. So we were talking about this one. Okay, let me repeat this again. So if you invest in a share market, you will be having a high risky and at the same time you will be having a return of very good return. So what does it mean? Higher the risk, higher the return. Higher the risk, higher the return. See, if you invest in a gold bond, what will happen? You can you can sleep aram if you invest in a gold bond. There is no question of what if money is lost. There is no such question because there is very least possibility that your money will be lost. Other than that, money will be safe, secured, and you can sleep aram. Now, what about the return? The return is less. Why? The risk is also less, so the return will also be less. But what happens if you invest in a stock market? If you invest in a stock market, there is a high chances of money being lost. Money will go into a loss, and there is a chances of losing your money only if you don't have a right knowledge about the stock market. If you don't have a right knowledge about the stock market, then 100% you will lose the money. Okay, let us not discuss much about stock market and all now. If you want, then let me know. I'll be posting a separate video for that. Only if you ask me in the comment section below, or else I will not do it. Okay, let us come to the second principle, that is a bird in hand is better than two in bush. Now, what is this, Sushma? There is some proverbs and all in here. Okay, let us understand this. So, what is the cost of the petrol, guys? Today the date is 13th. Okay, so today the date is 13th of August 2021. The rate of petrol is almost crossed 100, right? So tell me, what was the cost of the same petrol? The same petrol in the last, don't want 10 years. Let us take 20 years only. Let us take 20 years only. I think you were small kid at that time, right? It is almost 40 rupees or below 40 rupees, right? The same petrol bunk, that same petrol uncle, all are same, but the cost has gone up from 40 or 20 to 100 rupees. So this is nothing but a bird in a hand is better than two in the bush. It simply means that if, let me take another example. I will give you again two options. Let us assume that I am providing you a coaching and you are giving me fees for my coaching. So whatever the coaching I am doing to you, for that you are paying me, let us assume 1000. 1000. So here you are asking me that, Sushma, you want me to pay this 1000 rupees now, or shall I pay this after 1 year? Now what will I tell? I will prefer now only. Why? Because who knows? In 1 year, what are the things that may happen? I don't know. So I prefer money now. It simply means that if money is coming, Lakshmi is coming, we should never say no to Lakshmi. That is the meaning of a bird in a hand is better than two in the bush. Take the benefits early as possible rather than taking it later. Okay. Now, decision criteria in financial management can be studied under two separate sets: the criteria for investment decision and criteria for financial decision. While following decision criteria, the finance manager has to evaluate the following technique. Okay. Now, what is a decision criteria? A decision criteria is nothing but it depends upon the objective of the organization. Most commonly, all business organizations have an objective to maximize return and minimize cost. Okay, now let us understand these two words. What is minimizing and what is maximizing? Okay, minimizing means let us let us take it as less, and maximizing, let us assume it as more. Now you are investing or doing some business. Okay, you are doing some business, and do you want a lesser profit or higher profit? Of course, I prefer higher profit. That profit is nothing but cost. That profit is nothing but return. Where is the eraser? That profit is nothing but, okay. That profit is nothing but return. Or let us assume it as profit only. For easy. Okay. Now what should I minimize? Have to minimize my risk. Now what is risk? If I have to start my business with 100 rupees and I am getting a profit of only 20 rupees, is it good, guys? No, it's not a good. If I am investing 100 rupees and if I am getting 120 rupees ka profit, then is it good, guys? Of course, it is good. Now, what I am doing here, I am maximizing my profit, increasing my profit, and reducing my cost. Let us take the example of dairy milk chocolate. Okay, let us take the example of dairy milk chocolate. I think when I was in college or 10th standard, I used to take the dairy milk chocolate of 5 rupees. It was a very long, big chocolate. The quantity was very high, very, I mean, it was very large chocolate basically. But now if I go to shop and get the dairy milk chocolate, it's very tiny, right? It's very small. What has happened? What has happened? They have reduced the quantity. Why they have reduced the quantity? Because there was lot of demand for the chocolate. So we have studied, right, in economics, whenever the demand is more, the prices will be less, the sales will be more. But dairy milk, they can't reduce their price. If they reduce their price, what will happen? If they reduce their price, there will be a loss for them. So what they have done, they have reduced the quantity. They know anyhow people will buy this chocolate. They need dairy milk chocolate. There is a huge demand. So what I will do, I will reduce my quantity. If I reduce my quantity, what will happen? People will still buy, but my prices are kept at the same. Prices are not increased or decreased. Prices are kept same. But what I am doing, I am just reducing my quantity. That's all. Now, what is this reducing of quantity? It is nothing but minimizing a cost. Minimizing a cost. And what I'm increasing my return. People will still buy, right? You still go to shop and ask for 5 rupees dairy milk or 10 rupees dairy milk, right? Yes. Okay. Okay. Any financial manager while taking or following this decision criteria, he has to have some things in mind. What to do? Urgency. What is urgency? Now, I have invested in some stock, but I need the return or I need the money now. I can't get it right now because I've already invested. I can't take that money now. Now, what I will be doing? I have to sell those stock, and it takes around 2 days for me to get my money. Almost it takes 2 days to get my money. Is it easy? No, it's not that easy. If I have a small piggy bank in my home, piggy bank in my home. In Kannada, we call it as hundi. Yeah. In temples and all, they have a big one, right? But not that big one, but very small one. Okay. If I'm saving some amount in this piggy bank, then I can easily get my money, right? Easily I can get my money. Now, what a financial manager has to do, in which fund I have to invest. If I'm investing in this stock, if I'm investing in this particular, uh, in this particular asset, then if I have to withdraw the amount, is it easy for me to get that money or not? That a financial manager has to think. He can invest in an asset where the return is high, and at the same time if we cannot get that money right now, if there is any urgency, then it is useless. So what business will do is, if they have 1000 rupees, if they have 1000 rupees, 500 rupees they will invest in a liquid stock, and 500 they will invest in stocks where the investment is very high, where return is very high, and it is not that liquid, where it is not liquid. So if they want money now, they can withdraw this 500 rupees, right? Okay. They have to see, that is nothing but the urgency. You can go through this. The next one is payback. Now, what is payback? As the name suggests, payback. Okay, let us see. Time plays a vital role here. As the name suggests, it means how quickly I can pay off the investment. How quickly I can pay off the investment. So it is nothing but, say for example, um, okay, I have given you a loan. I have given you a loan of rupees. Let us assume it is 3000 rupees. Let us assume it is 3000 rupees. And you have told that, Sushma, I will give 3000 in 1 week, Sushma. Give me 1 week time, Sushma, I will return back your 3000. But you have not returned my money. Now, what I will do? I will call you. Hey, where are you? I have given you 3000 rupees. Now, you are not returning my money. I need my money back right now. Please give me my money. I will ask you. Now what you will tell? Sushma, Sushma, another 1 week, Sushma. Please, Sushma. I'm in really very emergency situation, Sushma. I don't know what to do, Sushma. All cock and bull stories will come, Sushma, now. Please, Sushma, understand, Sushma, and give me another 1 week time, Sushma. Now, 1 week over. Again, you did not pay me my money. Now, what I will do? I will directly come to your home. You will give my money or not now. I will ask, and I will take my money and go. Now, what did you understand from this? You said 1 week I will return your money, but it took 2 weeks for you, right? Now, what is the thing that we can understand here? How quickly I can recover my money. That is the that is nothing but payback period. Okay. Okay. Next comes to the rate of return. We know it is normally bigger and better principle will apply here. Why bigger and better? Higher the risk, higher the return. Lower the risk, lower the return. That is nothing but rate of return. We normally invest in assets where the rate of return is higher, and at the same time you are willing to take the high risk. The next one is undiscounted benefit cost ratio. It is based on bigger and better principle. It does not follow the second principle. To be noted, benefits are always taken at face value. The ratio may be gross or net. If it is gross, it is calculated without deducting depreciation. If it is net, depreciation is deducted. So the normal formula is net ratio is equal to gross ratio minus 1. I think those who have studied CSET, they know what is net, they know what is gross. They know when to deduct if there is a net, and they know when to add when there is a gross. Okay, what does this mean? It means that whenever you are getting a return on something, that return will be based on the face value. Now, what is this? We have studied in account the share price of a certain stock at rupees, the face value of this certain stock is rupees 2. On this 2, you will receive a dividend of rupees 5 every quarter or every year. That is nothing but face value. So 2 rupees is my face value. The market value is different, face value is different, guys. Now, what is face value? The face value is usually when a company declares, when a company is going to public, they will say that for one share, the face value is 1 rupee. Normally, the face value will be 1 rupee or 2 rupees for any stock. It may be any stock, and the market value will be different. Market value is something which will be trading in the stock market right now. Okay, let us take the example. I know it's quite confusing for you. Let me take an example. Okay, let us take the company A. The company A, while coming to public, that is while declaring its IPO, they said that we are going to declare 1000 shares, 1000 shares at rupees, at the face value of rupees 1, at the face value of rupees 1. It was in the year 2019, let us assume. Currently in 2021, the same stock of A company is trading at rupees 500 rupees, at 500 rupees. Now this is the market value. So this 1 rupee is my face value. Okay. So if the company declare a dividend, then that dividend, rupees 5 dividend, let us assume the company is saying that we will give 5 rupees dividend because we have got huge profit, so we are giving 5 rupees dividend for every shareholder. Now this 5 rupees will be on the face value and not on the market value. That is nothing but the undiscounted benefits ratio. I'm going very slow because this is the most important one. Next one is discounted benefit cost ratio. It requires both the principles. As per the first principle, it takes into account all the income whenever it is received. Second principle, early receipts are given more weight and then late, rather than the late receipt. It is based on the present value of future benefit and cost, and it can be gross or net. So discounted benefit cost ratio, it considers both the principle. That means what was the first principle? Bigger and better. So if it is giving me higher return, then I will invest in that. And if it is giving me a bird in a hand is better than a two in a bush, right? So if it is giving me return today only, then I will invest in that. So that is nothing but discounted benefit cost ratio. Present value method. It is the best to invest today than to wait for future, as the rupee value keeps increasing. So if you invest today, it will give you more return on investment after n number of years. Okay, I'm going to tell a quick story now. So there was one of my friend who said that when she was 20 years, she told me that invest in any mutual fund. So I was not having any demat account for shares and all at that time. So my friends said that open a demat account or something so that you can invest in mutual fund. So she told me like that, and I was not very interested in that and all. And I thought it was very risky, and I did not want to get into such things at that time. So I did not agree to that. But she invested. She invested around 1,000. That was compounding. That was compounding every year, and I did not invest. But now I just thought after reading all those things in the Google and all, I thought it was a very good idea investing in mutual funds and all, because if you have invested rupees 1,000 at that time, then the money that would have grown around like 50,000 at 15,000, let us assume. I don't know what exactly is the amount that she is earning right now. So let us assume now if you take, the amount will be somewhere around 50,000, and it will be still growing. But what I did, I was so blind and I did not invest. But what I did now I know we should have a proper knowledge on that before doing that. So I opened my demat account, I invested in mutual funds, and I'm also investing in the shares. But comparatively, her income is more than my income because she started too early. She started too early. So she's getting more money. Say for example, even a piggy bank only. Let us take the piggy bank. So each day, there is two persons A and B. Okay, starting from the month of January, they started to deposit 1 rupee, to add 1 rupee daily in the piggy bank. So at the end of the month, it will be 30 rupees. 30 rupees. Now what I did, oh, she is investing in piggy bank. She is putting the money in piggy bank. Let me also do one. What I will do, I will start in the month of February. February. Now, okay, let us take March only. Here you have 30 days, 31 days, right? So I will also add one rupee each day. Now, what will happen? My amount will also be 30 rupees only. What is there in that? But she will be adding for February also. She will be adding for March also. Now I am starting it March. I'm starting in March. But what will be the comparatively, what will be the amount? My amount is still less, right? So that is nothing but if you invest today, the money will be more in the future. So let's start investing today. That is nothing but the present value method. The next one is internal rate of return, IRR. It satisfies both the principle, it takes interest factor into account. It is known as marginal efficiency of capital or rate of return over cost. Okay. Next one, the value of the firm, risk and return. So there is no much thing about to discuss here. So I'm just going to have a quick glance over this. So let us see. There is a risk everywhere. Of course, there is risk everywhere. A financial manager has to decide whether to invest in a high risk asset or to invest in a low risk asset. As we all know, higher the risk, higher the return. So what is the principle that it is following? The first principle. The first principle. What is the first principle? I don't know that first principle. Comment in the comment section. I don't know that answer. You have to tell me. Okay. The finance manager has to have a proper balance between risk and return in order to maximize the market value of the firm. This is nothing but trade-off. Let us understand this. See, trade-off, right? What a finance manager has to do, he should be having two options. Number one option, he has to reduce its risk as much as possible. That is nothing but minimizing. Okay. The next one is he has to increase his profit or return as much as possible. This is nothing but maximum. So it should have a proper balance between the risk and the return. That is nothing but trade-off. Okay. So there are different concepts. Let us see liquidity. Now what is liquidity? How easily you can convert your money. Okay. Now I will invest in gold. I will invest in gold. Can I convert this gold into cash right now at this moment? Yes, you can. How? You have to just you have to simply go to Setu's shop. You have to ask Setu, I want to sell this gold and give me money. And you will sell it to Setu and Setu will give you money. Very simple, right? Okay. Now, if you purchase a building, is it easy for you to convert building to money? The answer is no. Why? There are lot of legal works that you have to do in order to convert that building to money. It's not that easy. So that is nothing but liquidity. Go through this once, okay? Okay. So there are various ratios that the company uses to find out things. So let us see. The number one is the liquidity ratio. It tells that how much, sorry, it's not number one, it is point. Liquidity ratio, it tells how much liquid assets it easily convertible into cash. The company has to meet any uncertainty. If the company has to meet, please add it here if. So in liquidity ratio, you have number of ratios. Let us see one by one. The number one is current ratio. A ratio that measures whether a firm has enough resources to meet its short-term obligations. So we know in balance sheet, in asset column, you have current assets and you have what is the other one? Non-current assets. Okay. So current assets include assets which can be easily converted into cash. What are the examples? Cash, receivables, etc. Now, non-current assets are those assets where the liquidity is not that easy. What are those? They are nothing but building, land, machinery. That's all. So now, how easily I can convert my money into cash? That is the question. So the formula is very simple. In liabilities also we will be having current liabilities. No. Now, what is current liability? How quickly I can pay off my liabilities, right? So both the current assets and current liabilities, if you deduct, you will get current ratio. Very simple. You are not including non-current. Why? It is for long term. So I am not including it. And one thing you have to keep in mind, the current ratio should always be more. If it is more, it is better. Okay. The next one is quick ratio. It is also known as acid test ratio. Important, there may be a chances of asking in a question MCQ paper. So please be aware of the different name that have been called for the ratios and all. Okay. So it is used to measure the ability of the firm to use its near cash or quick assets to pay off its current liabilities immediately. Now what are current liabilities? How quickly I can pay off my liabilities. That is nothing but quick ratio. We find this by using the quick ratio. How you will find? Very simple. Very simple. Okay. Quick ratio is equals to, I will take the current assets. Where is it? Where it is there? In my asset column. Why I will take current assets? Because by using current assets, I can pay off my current liabilities. So I will take current assets. And I will reduce my stock. Why I am reducing my stock? Because stock is not easily convertible into cash. So I am deducting my stock and I am also deducting my prepaid expenses. Why? Again, prepaid expenses is something that I have to pay like so quickly, right? So I'm not including this. I'm also deducting this, and I will divide this by current liability. Now, what I will get? I will get quick asset. There is also another formula, that is cash and equivalent plus marketable security plus accounts receivable divided by current liability. You can either use this or this. The third one is absolute liquidity ratio. If it tests only the short-term liquidity in terms of cash, it measures the total liquidity available to the company. So as it telling that it will only take test the short-term liquidity, short-term liquidity. Okay. Now what I'll do, I will absolute liquidity ratio is equal to whatever the cash I am having. It is also known as current assets. It will be included in current assets. For this, I will add the marketable securities. I will add the marketable securities and divide it by current liability. The next one is basic defense ratio. It measures the number of days a company can cover its cash expense without any additional borrowing from the other sources. It simply means that how many okay. So I have to pay the loan of rupees 100. Now, how many days I have to pay this 100 rupees without borrowing from anyone? Without borrowing from anyone, how can I pay this? Do I have money or not? Or can I pay this money easily without borrowing from any external sources? For that, to pay this amount, how many number of days do I need? That is, you calculate by the use of basic defense ratio. Basic defense ratio. See, I'm not going to teach you in depth. Why? Because you have a separate chapter called as ratio analysis. In that, we are going to discuss all these ratios in detail. So I'm just giving you a glance on this. Okay. I'm not even explaining you about these ratios, why you have to add, why you have to deduct, because that is not much important for your first chapter, and it is not also given in your textbook. Okay, so it is not included in the textbook. I've just added it for the reference. Okay, let us see this. Basic difference ratio is equal to cash plus receivables plus marketable securities and divided by operating expense plus interest plus taxes divided by 365 days. Okay, just go through this one. Okay. Okay, financial decisions are affected by liquidity analysis of a company in following areas. Where this financial decisions is affected? Number one, management of cash and marketable security. We have seen this in formula itself. Credit policy of a firm and procedures for realization. Number three, management and control of inventory. Inventory is nothing but stock. Another name for inventory is stock. Okay. Administration of fixed assets, taking decisions for efficient use of current assets at the minimum cost. Decision to keep the company's position on sound basis to avoid eventualities. The next one is profitability. Every organization main goal is to earn profit, right? No one wants to earn loss. Everyone wants to get profit. Now, what is the formula to calculate profit? We have been studying this from our PU. So whatever the sales I do, from that I will reduce whatever the expenses that I incur. That is nothing but cost. If I deduct the expenses from my sale, I will get profit. Let us take example. I want to sell 10 chocolates. 10 chocolates. Okay. And to produce the 10 chocolates, my expenses, I have to purchase the raw material like cocoa, sugar and all, right? So all that in total my cost 10 chocolates. Okay, this is chocolate, and the cost is rupees 3 rupees. So now what I will do? have to sell 10 chocolates at rupees 5. At rupees 5. Now what I'll do, I'll directly deduct 5 minus 3. I will get 2 rupees. 2 rupees into 10 is equals to 20. Right? Okay. Okay. Profitability to sales ratio reflects the company's ability to generate profit per unit of sale. To sell 1 unit of chocolate, to sell one chocolate, what is the profit I am earning? To sell one chocolate, what is the profit I am earning? To calculate this, we use different ratios like profit margin ratio. It is simply you have to take the gross profit and divide it by sales into 100. And you have operating profit margin. Here you take the operating profit. Operating profit is also known as EBIT. Now, how do you calculate this? Very simple. This is calculated in a simple manner. What EBIT? Sales minus my variable cost. You get contribution minus fixed cost. You will get EBIT or operating profit. You will get EBIT or operating profit. Okay. This operating profit or EBIT divided by sales into 100, you will get operating profit margin. And if you want to get net profit margin, then take the net income divided by sales into 100. Okay. Next, return on investment. I am investing 10 rupees in some asset. What is the return I am getting from that? That is we calculate by the use of this formula, net income divided by asset into 100. Okay. Return on equity. Equity is nothing but stock. Okay. It compared the income with the equity with investors and investor. Who is investors? We are the investor who invest in certain companies. It may be any company. Return on equity is equal to net income divided by shareholders' equity. We'll read all this in the coming chapters. Return on investment. Okay. The important profitability ratio from the angle of shareholder. From the angle of shareholders. Keep it in mind. Return on asset is different. Okay. It is for company. Return on investment is for company. Return on asset is for company. Return on investment is for shareholders like you and me who are investing in some company. Okay, for this you have a different formulas to calculate the return. The number one is net return on investment divided by the cost of investment into 100. It is nothing but I am investing. What is the return you are getting? 10% return you are getting, and you are investing 20% of your money. So now what is the money you get? Or return on investment, let us assume it is 100 rupees. I am investing 50 rupees. What is the return on investment? Okay. Now, second formula is final value of investment minus initial value of investment divided by cost of investment into 100. Or the third formula, EBIT divided by sales into sales divided by assets is equal to EBIT divided by assets. Okay, we will discuss this in detail now. Okay. So let us now understand the costing and risk. Okay. First of all, let me tell you. Okay. See, if you take a company, who will all be in company? Who are called as a real owners of the company? We have discussed this in detail. Equity shareholders will be called as real owners of company. What will they get? They will get dividend. Okay. Now, before paying the dividend, what the company should do? The company should see whether there is any preference shareholders or not. If there is any preference shareholders, what the company has to do? The preference shareholders will get fixed dividend from the company. Oh, before paying, before, I'll write it as B. Before paying preference dividend, what the company has to do? The company has to pay the tax. Will the government be simply? I think, is it confusing? Yeah, if I'm going from reverse manner? Okay, let me go in order wise only. Okay, I will sell something. Okay, let me assume it is chocolate only. From the sales, I will get profit. From this profit, what I have to do? I have to see if I have taken any loan from anyone. If I have taken any loan, what they will ask? They will ask, give me the interest. The Setu. The Setu will ask me the interest. I have to give the interest from my profit. So I will deduct from my profit. And after deducting this, will government sit quietly? No. The government will also ask, alright, you got profit now? You have paid your interest for the loan which you have taken now? Now it's my turn. Give me the tax amount. The government will ask. And after this, will the preference shareholders be quiet? No. Oh, you have got profit and the profit is still remaining after paying the tax. Okay, give me the dividend. Give me the fixed dividend which you have to give. You have to give the dividend for the preference shareholder. Now, if something is remaining, who will ask? Equity shareholders will ask. And here you can decide whether I have to retain the profits or shall I distribute it to the equity shareholder. Okay. Now, now there was a profit. I deducted my interest. After deducting interest, profit after deducting interest. Okay. What I will call it as normally, we call this as, there is some problem in this. After paying the interest, what I will call this as, I will call this as EBT or PBT or PBT. Okay. Now what is this? How to call it as profit after interest now? Why are you taking as EBT and all? Because this is the money I have left off before paying the tax. This is the money that is left before paying the tax. So it is nothing but earnings before tax or profit before tax. Now once I pay tax, I will call it as EAT. It. What is it? The government has ate my tax. Government has ate my profit. Okay. Government ate my profit. Okay. That is nothing but earnings after paying the tax or profit after paying the tax. Okay. Once I deduct the dividend paid to preference shareholders, I will get something called as earnings available to equity shareholders. I'm writing in a short form. You can write it in full form. Earnings available for equity shareholders. After after that, what I get? After getting this, I have to simply divide it by number of equity shares. Number of equity shares, right? Now I will get EPS. What is EPS? Earnings per share. I'll teach this in detail. Okay. Okay. Now let us discuss this clearly. Okay. First, costing and risk. Now they have given the total capital. Total capital is nothing but okay. Say for example, there is a company called as A company. A company while going for IPO, they said that we are going to issue the shares and the total shares we are going to issue is 1000 rupees and for that the amount of face value is 2 rupees. Okay. And in that if you calculate all, the total value or the total capital is 100. Okay. Let us assume it is 100 lakhs. Let us assume all these figures is in lakhs. Okay. Now owner's capital. Now what is this owner's capital? It can be either equity shareholders or preference shareholders. But if it is owners, then assume it as equity shareholders because equity shareholders are the real owners of the company. Preference shareholders will get a preferential rights on the dividend only. Okay. Okay. Now borrowed capital. Okay. I need some money to perform my business activities. So what I will do? I will go and borrow some money. That is also called as debt. Debt. Okay. Okay. The rate of earnings. What is this rate of earnings? I have invested in gold. After 1 year, I will get 10% return. That is nothing but rate of earnings. Okay. Next, they have given interest, rate of interest. Suppose I am doing the transaction in stock market. Now, whenever I place a order, I have to pay interest for the broker. That is, if you have a demat account, then if you are doing any transaction, then you have to pay interest, right? Okay. Normally, company will pay interest on debentures. Okay, so they have borrowed money, right? So they have borrowed money. On that money, they have to pay interest. I simply told that in order to make you understand, I told you that interest is something where when I'm doing transaction, I have to pay interest. Like that only. If you take a company into picture, a company, when will company pay the interest? Only when they take a loan, they will pay the interest. Okay. The next one is EBIT. What is this EBIT? Earnings before interest and tax. How do you get the sales minus variable cost? You will get contribution, and minus fixed cost. You will get EBIT. Okay. Next, after getting a profit, it is also called as operating profit. EBIT is also called as operating profit. After getting the profit, what you have to do? The debenture holders, Setu, will ask me, give me the money, bhaiya, give me the money. So you have to pay the interest to them. After paying the interest, the amount that is remaining is known as EBT. What is this? Earnings before paying tax. Yes, I have not paid the tax yet, so I call it as EBT. Now, once you pay the tax, it will be known as EAT, that is earnings after tax. Then if you divide this, okay, you get some amount, right? When you get some amount, if you divide it by number of shareholders, then you will get EPS. Here we have taken percentage earnings on owner's fund. This is nothing but, see, EBIT is 20 rupees in company A and 20 rupees in company B. In company A, the debt, that is nil. So they have not borrowed any money. In company B, they have borrowed rupees 50 money. Okay, on that they have to pay the interest. Where is that interest? It is here, right? Now, in first case, they have not borrowed any money, so they are not going to pay any interest. In second, they are paying 7.50. How did you get 7.50? Rate of interest. So the rate of interest is 15%. Calculate it on borrowed capital. See, normally what students do is they will calculate this interest amount with the 20 rupees. No, you should not do this. 20 rupees is my profit. Why are you going to pay this on the profit amount? No, no, no. You are not going to pay the interest on profit amount. You are going to pay the interest on the amount you have borrowed. Okay, on 50 rupees, you are going to pay 15%. Okay, not on the profit. Keep this in your mind. Don't forget. Students will do this mistake. Every time I have seen that students will do this mistake. They will take this 20 rupees and they will multiply it with 15% and they will deduct here. No, this is wrong. You have to pay the interest on your loan borrowed, not on your profit. Okay. After paying 7.50, let us see. When you deduct 20 rupees EBIT, let me erase this. Okay. When you pay interest of 7.50, the remaining is 12.50. How? 20 rupees minus 7.50, you get 12.50. Here there is nothing, so 0, 20 minus 0 is 20. What is this? This is my EBT. Now I have to pay the tax. Now on which amount I have to pay the tax? On profit. The government will ask you to pay the tax on profit. The government is least bothered on how much loan you get, how much expenses you make. I will not care for all those things. The government will only care on the profit that the company is earning. Keep this in your mind. So once you paid interest to Setu, you pay to me what? The amount which is remaining after paying Setu, that amount you pay to me. So the amount remaining is 20 rupees 12.50 in company A and B. Now on this I have to calculate 50%. On this I have to calculate 50%. So 20 into 50%, 10 rupees. 12.50 into 10%, sorry, 50%, you get 6.25 rupees. Now if you deduct this two, I will get 10 rupees as my profit after paying tax or earnings after paying tax, and in this you get 6.25. Okay. Now let us assume there is a total number of shareholders in each company is 10, and let us assume this as 15. Now if I want to calculate EPS, I will take this 10 and divide it by 10. Okay. Usually it can't be 0. It can be 0, but usually if you calculate in any companies, it will not be 0. But in this example, I have just assumed it as 10. Okay. And here 6.25 divided by 15, you will get some amount, and that will be known as my EPS. So here what we have done, I have given here in company A to calculate a percentage earning, I am taking this 10 rupees. Okay, let me erase this. So this amount, I am taking this 10 rupees in company A, and I am dividing it by the total capital, 100 rupees each, right, each company. So 10 is my EAT, divided by 100. If you want to get it in percentage, multiply it by 100, you will get 10%. So this 10% is shown here. Okay, next one, the EAT is 6.25. So take 6.25. Here, what will happen? Let us see. Okay, I'm really sorry, guys. It is not the total capital. Here you have to take the owner's capital. Owner's capital and not the total capital. Here it is owner's capital, equity shareholders, right? You have to take equity shareholders, owner's capital. I'm really sorry. And here also 6.25 divided by what is the owner's capital? It is 50 rupees. It is 50 rupees. So you have to divide it by 50 and multiply it 100 to get a percentage. So you get 12.25. Okay. The next one is financial gearing and financial leverage. I hope you are getting the point. If you have any doubt, please ask me in the comment section below. And I have seen many people are mailing to this email ID. Actually, this is my personal email ID. So I have given my email address in the comment section below. So if you have any doubt, you can text me there. Okay. Please don't text me here. Okay. Next, financial gearing or financial leverage. It refers to the relationship or ratio of a company's debt to equity ratio. This information can be used to evaluate the risk of failure of a company when there is a high proportion of debt to equity. A business is said to be highly geared. If a company is having high debt, that means that company is highly leveraged. It is having a high financial leverage. If the company is having less debt, then that company is said to be less leveraged or less geared. Okay. Okay. Let us see the objectives of the firm. There are two objectives of a firm. One is profit maximization, shareholders maximization. I'm just going to give the brief. See, that is the problem with the YouTube. You can't post a video where you will have more than 2 hours or 3 hours because no one will watch. All these topics I have to do in detail, but if I do it in YouTube, no one will watch, right? That is the problem. So I'm just giving you the brief. So in profit maximization, what happened? The company's main aim is only to earn the profit and not anything else. And in shareholders maximization, what the firm will do, the firm will try to maximize the profit of the shareholders as much as possible. So I told you, right, in share market and all, what will happen, the market value will be maximized. The company should try to maximize its market value as much as possible. Usually all companies will follow shareholders wealth maximization and not profit maximization. That is only given here. You can just go through this. You can just go through this. I've also given this PDF of this whatever I'm doing. So if you can't access this, then please take the screenshot wherever it is necessary. Okay. So I told you the shareholders maximization is the normative framework. Remember this, normative is important. Normally all companies will follow shareholders wealth maximization and not profit maximization. That is what I have given there. It is a difference. Just go through this difference. Let us look into economic value added. Now what is economic value added? It means it is the means to measure the shareholders value criteria. How much the shareholders is getting, how much the shareholders value have increased. That is what I will learn in economic value added. We will be learning about these ratios in not in detail, because if I have to post, see in the next chapter, that is the capital budgeting, in your textbook it is almost like 20 to 25 pages or 30 pages I believe. Now if I have to post all those things in detail, it will at least take me like 3 to 4 5 hours. Okay, who will watch if that is the case? No one will watch. Hey, 4 hours, 5 hours, no, I will watch something else rather than this, and they will think. Okay, that is the problem. Next, the formula to calculate EVA is, you have to take the operating profit. What is operating profit? Also called as EBIT, and minus a capital charge. And EVA is equal to NOPAT. NOPAT means net operating profit after tax. We used to get it now. Earnings after tax. After the government aided my profit, part of my profit, the remaining is known as EAT. Okay. Next, net operating profit after tax minus the cost of capital into capital. Okay, let us solve one problem quickly. Okay. XYZ Company Limited has a capital investment of rupees 3 lakh. Okay. After tax operating income is rupees 1 lakh. Okay. And the company has a cost of capital of 9%. Estimate the economic value added. What is economic value added? EVA, right? Of the firm. Okay. See, whenever you don't understand a question, write the given information. If you write the given information properly, then you will be able to solve the problem. If you understand the question, then directly solve with the help of calculator. If you did not understand, write the given information. Okay, let me write the given information. They have given us capital invested. Now, what is this capital invested? In formula, we have only EVA is equals to operating profit minus capital charge. EVA is equals to NOPAT minus capital employed into capital. Now, what is this? They have not given anything. So, this capital investment is nothing but my capital employed. My capital employed. So, say for example, I purchase a machinery or I purchase a land. Now, what is this called as? This is my asset. So, this is my capital employed. So, this is 3 lakh. Okay. Next, they have given after tax amount. What is that after tax amount? That is 1 lakh. This is nothing but after tax. They have only given after tax. Now, EAT. The government has already aided the tax. The remaining amount is 1 lakh. That is what the meaning. So, my EAT or NOPAT is 1 lakh, and they have given the cost of capital. We usually call a cost of capital as WACC. That is 9%. Okay, now let us take in the formula. EVA is equals to NOPAT minus WACC into capital employed. Okay. My NOPAT is 1 lakh. My NOPAT is 1 lakh. I have taken 1 lakh minus into my WACC is 9%. Take this 9% into my capital employed is 3 lakh. Take this 3 lakh. Now 9% of 3 lakhs will give me 27,000 and minus it from 1 lakh. Then you will get 73 lakh. See what students do at this point is they will minus 1 lakh and 9% and they will multiply it with 3 lakh. No, that is wrong. That is wrong. Don't do that mistake. You have to first calculate the bracket value first. After that, you have to calculate this value. Okay. First is this. Whatever there is in bracket that you have to calculate first. After that, you have to calculate this. Okay. Next, financial distress and insolvency. I'll give you a quick glance here. See, let us take an example of a company. Okay, or let us take the example of Kingfisher. Now, what did Kingfisher do? They took huge loan. Now, what happened after that particular point after taking huge loan? They were not able to repay that loan. They were not able to repay that loan. Now, what will shareholders of that company do? Okay, they have huge debt in their company. Now, it is not safe for me to stay in this company for a long time. So, I'll withdraw all my shares. So, shareholders withdraw all the shares. Now, that company has went into bankruptcy. The company is went into bankruptcy. Now, they are again facing a case. So, if you are interested, then just read the articles in Google, you will get. So now what is a financial distress and what is insolvency? If there is any problem in my company's production or inside the company and that is if it is temporary, if it is temporary, then I will call it as financial distress. Insolvency is from outside the company. If I have taken any loan and I have not paid that loan, then that will cause a problem here for the company. And sometimes what happens when I do not pay any interest amount for my debentures, so the loan or like banks, then they will take a legal action on me. It will cause for me to go to insolvent. Now I have to go for a court, that is Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India and Insolvency Bankruptcy Code and all. So I have to go there, I have to defeat my company and I have to come. You will read all those things in this CS Executive. Okay. So just go through this. I have just given you some examples. You can either take the screenshot or you can download it from the description below. If you can't access that PDF, then please let me know. Then next, how can bankruptcy arise? Okay, what is bankruptcy? If the company cannot pay, if the company is not in a position to pay the money, then the company will have to face the bankruptcy. Now, what is this? See, I'm working in a company, okay? I'm working in a company and I am earning 100 rupees salary. I have taken a loan from my friend of rupees 500. I'm not able to pay that money. Right now, I'm not able to pay that money. This is insolvent. Now, I have left my job. I have left my job. I don't have any money to earn, but I have to pay this amount. Now, I can't pay because I don't have any money and I'm not working. This is bankruptcy. Okay. So, emerging roles of a finance manager. A finance manager has to forecast the cash flows. So, this much will I earn in the next year. This much will expenses will happen. He has to do certain forecasting. He has to raise funds from either from equity or from preference or from debentures. Okay. He has to manage the flow of internal funds. He has to facilitate control. He has to facilitate pricing of product lines and services. He has to forecast the profits. He has to measure the required return. He has to manage the asset, manage fund. This is quite important. They may ask you in MCQ. Okay. Okay, next we will solve some MCQ questions and we will end this chapter. So you have to go through this chapter once after finishing. Just revise everything and then solve the MCQs, which I'll be posting again. So you can again come back and you can go to the required position of where I'm solving the MCQs and then you can start there. Okay. So see, I'm going to just tell the questions now and I'm not going to tell any answers for this part which I have taught today. You are going to answer me. And I'm not going to post that answer until you tell me the answer. At least one, two, three, anyone, at least 5 to 6 members also should post me the answers. Only then I'm going to solve that MCQ part. Okay. Okay guys, I think this video is almost like 1 hour or something. So what I'll do is I'll be posting the MCQs in the part 3. Don't worry guys, I'll be posting it soon. As soon as I release this video, within 2 to 3 days, I'll be posting that part 3 video. So we will be ending our first chapter and we will start the second chapter once the MCQs, that is only 5 MCQs. I just thought like I could cover that MCQ in the next part 3 video, and along with that I wanted to share some things with you so that I'm planning for the part 3. And till then, have a good revision of the chapter 1. Okay. By saying this, we will end today's video and thank you everyone for watching my video. Thank you.